Hey friends, Powwow Guy, Rob Phoenix here. Hope you're all doing well. I just wanted to talk about the the legendary figures in the powwow tradition that we kind of perceive as saints in this day and age. Now, we're not talking about saints as defined by the Catholic tradition. We're talking more about local people who were so locally renowned for their ability to powwow and for their goodness and their caring for the people in their communities that they have almost taken on a saint-like status, and we revere them in a manner of speaking today. Now, because powwow is a heavily Protestant tradition, the idea of saints in the Catholic sense is not understood quite the same within Protestant sense. And so in, uh, setting that aside, I'm not sure why I said that. The Again, these are just local figures that have developed a legendary mythological status and are revered today in some way, shape, or form. We're going to start with the area that I'm from because remember I once said powwow is kind of regional. So where I'm from, powwow it was more of a professionalized tradition, meaning that you could go to a powwow in this area for all manner of things. And in some instances, they would have been locally known as being a powwow, and you can go to them all hours of the day and night for whatever it is you needed. So in our area, uh, the, the local legend, if you will, our local saint is Nelson Raymeyer. Nelson Raymeyer came from a family of powwowers, and it was all passed down for the men in his family. So his father was a powwow, his grandfather was a powwower. Um, Nelson, of course, being the last of his line, unfortunately, because he was murdered when he was 60 years old. Um, and he didn't have any sons. He had three daughters. So it wasn't passed on. Um, but nevertheless, but because of his powwowing practices, Nelson lived by himself. His wife and the daughters just couldn't stand the people coming in and out of the house at all hours of day and night, so they moved out to a different house down the road, or up the road, I guess you could say. So Nelson was kind of a recluse, just took care of his farm, his land, and he powwowed for people. And when he died in 1928, um, the trials for the murders, the murder kind of put a black spot on powwow, and it sort of went underground for a bit, but now it's resurfacing, and now we can see Nelson in a whole new light. He's something of a legendary figure for us, and his house is still standing. A descendant, a grandson, put it, you know, preserved it back to, restored it back to what it would have looked like when Nelson was alive. Um, his grave, you can go visit Nelson's grave, which people in the Phoenix line of powwow, we do. Um, we honor and revere Nelson for his contribution to powwow, and so there you go. Now, when you travel a little more east and slightly north, well, a little more east from us, you're moving into like Berks County, and Berks County, Pennsylvania, has their own sort of flavor of powwow that's very agriculturally based, not quite as professional as my area, but more localized community servant sort of thing. And they have a figure that they revere in that area, Anna Marie Young, also known nowadays as Mountain Mary. Little is known about Mountain Mary except that she was a recluse, lived as a hermit in this small home, which parts of that are still standing, and that she was a local healer and a very religious woman. Um, and pretty much that's all that's known. Now, a lot of different legends and stories have been created around her, and there are even some people today that claim that they are part of her powwow lineage. I dispute that, I guess, but I'm not openly disputing it because it doesn't matter. I mean, this is how stories and myths and legends are created. So anyway, she was a holy woman. We assume Christian because that's all there was. And she became a saint. in the Protestant understanding of it, in the local Pennsylvania powwow tradition understanding of it. So, um, so there's Mountain Mary, and then if you go further north, like into northeast Pennsylvania, you have a lady known as Aunt Sophia Baylor. Uh, Aunt Sophia, she was the saint of the coal region. Um, Now, the coal region is where I was born and raised, but now I'm in South Central Pennsylvania. But Aunt Sophia Baylor, she um, married twice, but she ended up being a widow at age 35, lived alone, um, learned powwowing through the women in her family. Uh, but she actually, I believe, came from kind of a well-off family. So she was a very independent woman. She took care of herself. She took care of her home and her farm and everything all on her own until she lived to the ripe old age of 80 something. And she powwowed, and she was very open about her powwowing, like speaking publicly about it and talking about it to people who wanted to listen. Kind of like I do. So I do know that she did pass it on to maybe her niece, I believe, and I'm not sure. I'm not sure if her niece passed it on. If there's currently like a Baylor line, I'm not sure. But nevertheless, she is now revered as a saint-like figure in the coal region. The powwow up in that area, though, has taken on some aspects of the Irish culture that's up there. Very strong Irish presence in northeastern Pennsylvania. So, um, powwowing up there, it's a lot more scarce than it is in Berks County or in South Central Pennsylvania, like where I am, Cumberland and York counties. Uh, Coal region is kind of sparse, um, but it is still there, and it does have some more of the Irish influence. Again, just a regional translation. So those are the three saints of powwow that I wanted to talk about. There may be others. I know in Western Pennsylvania, the witch of the Monongahela, I can't think of her name right now. She would definitely qualify, I think, as a more of a saint in the faith healing tradition of powwow. But I can't. I don't know enough about her to say. And that's really it. So that's really all I know. I can't think of anybody else offhand. But we all have, these three regions that I mentioned and these three various saints. We all have places to go that are connected to them. We all have, their graves to visit. We and we all can say that in some way, shape, or form, we're kind of carrying on their legacy. Um, just by remaining true to who they were and what they did and what they brought to the world. I think that's really important that we have that. I think powwow is very lucky in the sense that our tradition is so well preserved that we don't have to guess what powwowers did or do. We don't have to make anything up. It is very well preserved. And the stories of our saints are also very well preserved. Now, the exception might be Mountain Mary because there's very little known of her, but what is known of her and what's left of her home and where her grave is and such, uh, the rest can be sort of pieced together based on how people lived at the time, what she would have known, what she would have been doing and such with. So I feel like the history they have about her is probably as accurate as anyone can get. So anyway, three saints of powwow, uh, all wonderful, amazing people in their own way. And I think it's important that we honor them and we carry on, in the best way we can. We carry on their work because they set foundations for us back in the day, and let's we try to make them proud. So that's what I wanted to talk about today. Nelson Raymeyer, Sophia Baylor, and Anna Marie Young, Mountain Mary. Three saints of powwow. So I hope you're all having a great day, a great summer. Love you guys. God bless you. And we'll talk again soon.